I actually want a Ford Model T. That's one of my dream cars. So manual transmission, let me know in the comments section. Are you Gen Z or Gen Alpha into cars and you're interested in traditional cars, not EVs, and you want to learn how to drive a manual? This is an open video letter to Generation Z and Gen Alpha. The first of Gen Alpha will be driving soon. Some of you might be learning to drive now. I have a request for you guys from a millennial. Please don't let ICE engines die. Internal combustion engines, traditional vehicles. I'm an old millennial. I miss Gen X by 2 years, and I love cars. Loved cars since I was a kid, since I was like 3 years old. And I'm not rich. I'm not a TikTok influencer. I'm not a famous YouTube influencer. I'm doing the best I can in life to collect cars. Here are 2 of my vehicles right here, 2 out of the 4. These are my tiny vehicles. 2015 Fiat 500 Abarth. That's my newest vehicle. This is a 1992 Geo Tracker. So when these were new, I was still young. So I was still, how old was I? This body style came out in '88. So I was 6 years old when this body style was introduced. So I still like the vehicle that's my generation. I know for a lot of Generation Z and especially Generation Alpha EVs, that's your generation, and it's amazing technology. They're very quick, they self-drive, but I know not everyone's the same. And I know there's Gen Z and Gen Alpha out there that appreciate traditional vehicles. As I've gotten older, I got more into camping and off-roading. This is my 1999 Ford Econoline E350. It's lifted and it has a selectable rear locker, so I could do a little off-roading. And this is what I spend most of my time on these days, my van. Here's my prized possession right here. My 2003 C5Z06 Corvette. I bought it for 20 grand about 13 years ago. So all my vehicles put together, it's about $50,000 for all 4 of my vehicles put together. I could sell them all right now and get a S-Plaid. You know, I know that's the popular car among Gen Z, but I know you guys are not all the same and you appreciate traditional vehicles. So my plan is to clean up this garage and start a podcast with my buddy, Tom Talking Shift. He said something really cool. He said, I think Gen Z is really cool. They just need direction, and it's channels like ours that I hope that we could show you guys that there are affordable vehicles out there that are a lot of fun. I know times are tough right now, but I hope you guys watch my channel, watch Tom Talking Shift, check out our podcast when it happens, and learn about cars with us. We would love to teach you guys. So the floor is wet right now because I'm setting up this garage because I'm going to turn it into a podcast studio. I want to give a shout out to my best friend Jonathan. He was born in '95. So he missed being Gen Z by 2 years, so he's a young millennial. I missed Gen X by 2 years, so I'm an old millennial. He just picked up a Mazda Speed 3 with a manual transmission. He's been wanting a Mazda Speed 3 forever, and he wanted to learn how to drive a manual transmission. And it's been an honor being able to teach my best friend about cars and teach him how to drive a manual, and now he wants more manual transmission cars. He actually inspired me a lot. I've been more into my van the last 5 years. I dabble a little bit with my vehicles, but I've been more into camping and off-roading that, performance cars for me have taken a back seat. But when he got his Mazda Speed 3, I had to pick it up because he barely knew how to drive a manual transmission. So I got to drive it, and it rekindled how much I love performance cars. I actually cleaned this thing up because he re-inspired me. So for now on, he wants manual transmission cars. He drove my 1992 Geo Tracker. That thing's 80 horsepower. I had him drive it because it was a test. When he drove it, he enjoyed it so much. An 80 horsepower vehicle. Mine's a 92, but that vehicle dates back to like 88. And, this Corvette's a '03, my Abarth is a 2015, my van's a '99, and they don't feel dated. They're older vehicles, but they don't feel out of place in modern society. That Geo Tracker feels old, but that's the beauty of it. I actually want a Ford Model T. That's one of my dream cars. So manual transmission, let me know in the comments section. Are you Gen Z or Gen Alpha into cars and you're interested in traditional cars, not EVs, and you want to learn how to drive a manual? Let me know if you want to learn how to drive a manual. I think it's really cool when the younger guys want to learn how to drive a manual. Here's the interior of my 1992 Geo Tracker, my oldest vehicle. Manual transmission, manual transfer case. You have to move this lever to get it into four-wheel drive. I just really love how mechanical this thing is. My buddy Jonathan actually really enjoyed driving this thing, even though it's 80 horsepower. Yeah, 80 horsepower. Crazy, huh? So when I was younger, I got into cars, like I said, when I was 3. And, you know, when I learned to read, I really loved car magazines. So I was always daydreaming about cars, and the fastest vehicle of the 80s was like the Ferrari F40, and then for affordable car it was like the Grand National. Those things were doing 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. But the 80s was a dark time. You know, Corvettes were doing 0 to 60 in like 5 or 6 seconds. I think actually 6. Corvettes didn't get 0 to 60 again in 5s until the 90s, but 80s was a dark times. It's a long history, but look up the oil crisis of the 70s. They had to make cars weaker. But when I was younger, it was all about who's going to do 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, who's going to do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. And, you know, like 2 seconds sounded impossible, but we reached a point now where the top electric vehicle now is the Lucid, 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds. And then for gas, the ZR1X, 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. Watch Haggerty. I'm pretty sure you guys watch Haggerty already, but Haggerty did a race with the ZR1X and the Lucid, and we're at the pinnacle now of how fast cars are going to get. So now I think it's time to just start enjoying them. Who cares how fast things are now? I think vehicles are art, and I don't mean to offend any Gen Z or Gen Alpha, but when I look at an EV, it's like a phone. Yeah, they're very quick, fast, technologically sound. They self-drive. This is opposite of self-driving, but when the battery goes bad, you're just better off throwing it away and buying another EV. These, you got to keep them preserved, and that's what I hope you guys do. Gen Z, Gen Alpha, I hope you guys keep these things alive. I hope to give this vehicle to my nephew. You know, he was born in 2024, so he's Gen Alpha, but I hope to give this one to my nephew or my Abarth. But yeah, so this has my Z06 in it, and I was daydreaming, and let's see who the top dog was back in 03. So in 2003, the top dog was doing 0 to 60 in 3.13 seconds. Now in 2026, I think the ZR1X and the Lucid could crack the 1s on the right conditions, but they're doing 2 all day. And then the Lamborghini Murcielago 3.5, Viper 3.9. Where's my Corvette at? Right there, 4.2, and that's considered very outdated now. So like I said, it's I think we reached the pinnacle of technology. You know what this thing does 0 to 60 in? 20 seconds. My nephew is 2 years old, so he won't be driving for another 14 years. I have faith that the Geo Tracker will still be running in 14 years. I hope that this 2015 Fiat 500 Abarth will still be running in 14 years, so I could give one of these cars to my nephew. I really hope that I teach him how to love internal combustion engine vehicles. You know, if he likes EVs, he likes EVs, but I really hope that he appreciates what these are. That's why it's really cool to see my best friend Jonathan embrace driving a manual. Like he said, like he can't go back to automatics anymore after driving his Mazda Speed 3 with a manual transmission. It's just so much fun, and I hope Gen Z, Gen Alpha, I hope you guys get to experience it. I'm thinking about starting a car club with relatable cars like the ones I have. Like all my vehicles put together is worth 50 grand. I could sell everything I have and get a used S-Plaid and be modern, but I don't want to. But I'm thinking of starting a car club where I take a car like this and I want to see real cars, and maybe, you know, if you're Gen Z, you could participate, and I'll show you guys how to drive a manual, let you guys experience that. But that's my open video letter to Generation Z and Gen Alpha. I hope you guys embrace traditional cars and keep cars like this alive. And here's my van, the only automatic transmission vehicle that I own. If there was a manual option for this thing, I would have definitely have got it. You know, this is a different vibe than my cars and my little tiny truck. This thing has a food tray. So it's different, man. This is for road trips and camping. The other vehicles are for fun. Here's the interior of my van, set up for camping. I don't need a tent. I just sleep in my van. And do I like EVs? Would I drive an EV? I actually have been thinking about getting a Nissan Leaf for years, like the first mainstream EV, just to have one. I feel like as a car guy, I need to get one, and they're super cheap, like used with a bad battery. I would just buy a cheap $2,000 one and put in a refurbished battery. The last time I checked, a refurbished battery that has like a 10-year warranty, 10 or 100,000 mile warranty, was like $7 grand, because the Nissan Leaf doesn't have a monster battery like the Teslas. So yes, as a car guy, I feel like that's the right thing to do. I need an EV in my collection, and I would love a Nissan Leaf. And like I said, I would love a Ford Model T. I'm all about driving manual transmissions. I heard and seen and researched that Model Ts are way more complicated to drive than a manual transmission. So that's the historian in me feeling like I should drive a Model T, and I should have at least one EV. And I would love the OG one, the Nissan Leaf. Well, the OG one was the EV1 from GM, but it was lease only. So the Nissan Leaf was the first one you could actually buy and own. And I think that's Nissan's best car, honestly, right now, sadly. Driving a manual is an art now. I think this is the coolest car right here with the manual for $6,000, something different. Yeah, really nice. It's got a spoiler. And I want to take this time to thank you guys. I actually had my best day ever on YouTube last month. I made $50 in one day. Man, if I made $50 a day every day, I'd definitely buy this right now. I'm thinking about it. I talked to the guy who sold me my van, and I told him I'm going to keep in touch with you guys about Thunderbirds, because I really want one. Chevrolet Express, a 2000 with the 4.3 V6. Excellent engine. 4.3 is one of the best motors GM has ever made. Might be a little underpowered in a van, but don't go too crazy on the build. 4.3 is great. And this one says $10,000. Is that another Yaris? Check out the Yaris. Manual. Nice. Who wants this thing? 6,000 bucks. Manual.